Welcome to this week's exciting edition of your favorite program, Yilungelo Lakho. It's your rights in Letela lona lolu hlelo la kumamba phambili SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Hlelo majali umazikhala ushongo lo ngisaba ukulibamba ungangibiza ngoAlisha ungangibiza uNhlanhla. Those are my names. Mbukela udaba letla namhlanje siyazi ke ukuthi ukufa kuyinto nje evani ifike mbukela ingazange silindele noma isihlebele. Kungakho nje abantu abaningi ke behlala beqamele kuwona ama funeral policy phecelezi omasingcwabiswane lawa ke awuthola ukuthi ayakhokhelwa izinyanga nezinyanga. Kodwa ke mbukeli yini ukubaluleka kokuthi uthathele umuntu oyedwa amapolicy amaningi ungabe uyazuza noma uyalahlekelwa? Ake sibhekisise kahle lolu daba mbukeli. Alright, ke mbukela ke sizwe ivakashi zethu ukuthi zicabangani namhlanje. Asamkele uMr Mashite Makgoo yena ke obuya kwi-Financial Advisory as well as Intermediary Services phecelezi iFIS. Siphinde samkele nobaba uGerald Mwandiambira. Nyamazi ke isishoshovi mbukeli seyimali ke uyena ohlale nichazela ukuthi imali sizizuza kanjani nokuthi how can you make your money go even further. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with Babu Mashite. Babu Mashite, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
But Gerald, how are the little piggies doing?
Yeah, they're growing. They're growing all the time. Yes, definitely.
All right, so since we're talking about funeral policies today, Gerald, what do you think are some of the things that a lot of people actually don't even think about when they start thinking about whether or not to get that life policy, that funeral policy rather?
I think the first thing is let's know what a funeral policy is.
Yeah.
A funeral policy is governed by a law. So normally when you talk things which have money, you must always attach it to the law.
Yes.
So a funeral is normally attached to the Deceased Estates Administration Act. Okay, there's different financial acts such as the Pension Funds Act, Provident Funds Act. We're looking at the Deceased Estates and Administration Act. And what it does, it dictates and states the value of what a funeral should be eMzansi.
Okay.
Which is why funeral policies have a limit.
Okay.
Because the law has a limit in terms of how much is deemed sufficient to have a funeral. So that's what a funeral policy is. It's to pay for the funeral. And essentially it's to pay for the party. But you know, the service providers, they throw in the tombstone, they throw in a whole lot of other extras. But essentially a funeral policy is for one day to pay for the funeral.
A dignified funeral at that. A
dignified funeral at that, yes. So the biggest issue we face and the biggest misunderstanding by most consumers is that a funeral policy is similar to or like a life policy. A life policy is not to pay for the funeral. A life policy is to pay for the lives that remain in terms of being income replacement for the deceased. So if I was a breadwinner and I have a life policy, that life policy replaces me when I am gone. But the funeral policy, strictly speaking, is for one day, which is the funeral.
Thank you so much for that clarity, Gerald. I'm sure abantu abaningi are going to look at this now in a very different manner. Mara, Babu Mashite, then what then is the role of iFIS Ombud, especially in the funeral policy space?
Okay, iFIS Ombud deals with complaints that comes along due to so many things can go wrong in giving the advice or in the claims space. We have different dynamics in funeral policies because we have got the formalized funeral policies. I can refer them like that, and then burial schemes as well, which generally speaking, that's where most of problems comes because it's sort of like more informal and a lot of things are there's no proper documentation.
Yes.
Some of the service providers don't even know how to comply with the laws, as Babu Gerald has said, because everything that has to do with money, like as he said, there is laws that governs this process. So, for example, as a financial services provider, whether we funeral parlor or you're just an intermediary in J, the law is very clear. You have to have a license to give that. To render that financial services.
Yes.
So whether the financial services here we're talking about, because sometimes you find that they are collecting premiums from the public and selling the policies, but the law is very clear. It says you need to have a proper license that allows you to do those things, and proper training as well. So a lot of problems comes when things don't go according to the law.
But Mashite, maybe let's just clarify while we're there. I mean, between written and, of course, underwritten and written, is this the same space that we're referring to, making reference to? Because as you are speaking now, I was actually going to ask, are there different laws that govern, obviously, the formal versus the informal side, which is almost Gerald, where there's a burial society in my kasi, and people just put together money. They know that they bring groceries on the day of the funeral and they pay for the coffin. So is this where you're saying that the law actually gets stripped, where there's no actual regulation by the actual regulators like yourselves, Dr. Mashite?
Okay, in actual fact, there is no difference in laws.
Yeah.
The law that governs this is the same.
It says if you are rendering the service, register and abide by these policies.
Exactly.
So how are these ones operating without the relevant regulations?
Yeah, this is what FSCA, the regulator, most of the time they have to deal with, because the only time that honestly speaking, they know about this is when they receive a complaint. And a person has been running a scheme for a number of years at times. And that's the only time when they actually come in and there's a complaint. They now need to look at it and they find that the person is not registered, and then they have to take, obviously, enforcement action. Or it's that part of the regulator that they need to now protect the public and act on it. So, but many a times you find that even when they're properly registered, but there's no sufficient training that, because it is always looked at as if it's not good enough type of a business. That's why maybe a lot of people don't necessarily find it very important to actually be knowledgeable when rendering that kind of a service. Whether you're speaking to people with a group of people that are running a burial scheme at rural villages, which is basically most of the problem places where actually this issues comes in.
All right, Dr. Mashite, we're going to get into more details around this, Mbugeli, after the break. The numbers are on your screen. Nazia Lapayana. You can also email us consumer@sabc.co.za. We are Stola Futu on our social media platforms. We're back shortly after Lady Careful. We are talking about do's and don'ts, about pros and cons, about funeral policies. This is Yilungelo Lakho on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. We're back. Welcome back. You're watching Yilungelo Lakho live on SABC 1 Mzansi for short. Today we're talking about the pros and cons, as well as the do's and don'ts around acquiring a funeral policy. And of course, my guests this afternoon, Mashite Makgoo is from FICE, as well as from the FICE Ombud's office, alongside Gerald Mwandiambira. Of course, he is our resident financial expert. Let's go to our callers now. Mbugeli, I have given you those numbers, 011714 0714-0669, alternatively 714-0670. Ernest, all the way in Cape Town, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Please go ahead with your comments on today's show, and please do not mention any names if you are going to be talking about somebody who's done you wrong. Okay, please go ahead, Ernest.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ernest. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Man, I was a worker, and I did see my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law haven't got a funeral cover.
Okay.
I took a cover out for my sister-in-law, mother-in-law, father, brother-in-law, and that time I paid 99 rand a month. It's less than 10 years ago.
Okay.
My mother-in-law passed away. They paid me out 15,000 rand, and I didn't claim by then. And in 2 years' time, I said, hey, what's going on my account? I see, yes, money goes off. I went to the bank. The bank said, no, is that people took money from your account? I said, okay. I went to them, and I explained that my mother-in-law passed away, and they paid me back 15,000 with 2 years payments back.
Okay.
But today, for my sister-in-law, in December, I thought, now man, they going to give, I must increase my my funds, what I'm paying to them for the funeral.
Okay.
But I'm paying 456 rand, 51 cent a month.
Okay, and this is for everyone that you've covered, Ernest, on your current policy.
Only for one person.
Okay, and then the
Yes.
additional members of your extended family.
No, I didn't took out for my family. I got a funeral cover for my family. I'm happy with what I got.
Okay.
But where I'm talking about my sister-in-law. Now I'm paying, if I pay 456 rand a month, if I add that money, in 4 years' time, it comes to 21,800 rand. But if my sister-in-law passed away the day, I'll say tomorrow, while I was paying them,
Yes.
they give me 18,000 rand. And I wasn't happy with that amount because I see I rob myself if things goes on like that. So I said, no, I will rather leave them. I went to other funeral scheme, and those people said, okay, if you want to put your sister-in-law, you cancel that people, and you come to us, you pay 172 rand a month, and you cover for 30,000 rand.
Okay, and they
Yes.
explained all the products that are within the 30,000 rand, right, Ernest, that you are going to get. Of course, maybe if she stays in another province, the body can be, repatriated to another area. Did they explain all of those details to you? For the installment,
they
for the
did explain
installment that you were
everything
going to
for
pay.
me, but the person stays in Cape Town, and the funeral doesn't go. If anything happened to my sister-in-law,
Okay.
nothing goes out of Cape Town. But
all right.
before the funeral, the cover, the people who I did pay before, they even, when I cancel by them, because I did say to them, what is the reason I cancel? But they don't, for the years I did pay them, they don't even give me, say, why
right.
you walk away, we don't even give you 3 months.
All right, Ernest.
Yes.
All right, Ernest. No, we get the gist of your question. Thank you so much, Ernest. Please listen there. Let's try and help you here. Gerald, you heard the story. What do you think? And I think maybe my understanding is that obviously a lot of people don't look at the products that are offered by these insurers or funeral policy underwriters and so forth. So they just think because I'm paying a lump sum of 420, it includes, it's 20,000 rand for everybody, but there's actually conditions that say that in order for you to qualify for such and such. So please talk us through that, Gerald.
So that's really what the phase ombudsman does.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at a funeral policy, there's advice that happens. And if you're talking advice, you're looking at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. And normally funeral policies, they fall between categories 118, 119, 120.
Yeah.
And you need to be trained to give advice on those products. But also, as consumers, we need to know what we are buying.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you do the maths and you're like, he said 400 in 4 years' time, I've already paid. I could have saved this money for myself.
Yeah.
And I would still be paying for in the same amount in 10 years' time. And this speaks to product design. Some policies get paid up. When you say paid up funeral policy, it means that the company says you've paid enough to cover the funeral.
Yeah.
You can't pay 30 years 400 rand for 15,000.
Yeah.
But most companies do that.
Okay.
So it means be wise. When you are now shopping for your funeral policy, go for the company that gives you a policy which gets paid up, because you can't pay forever.
Exactly.
You can't pay 20 years for one funeral, which pays 30,000. So you need to understand what you're getting. If I pay my premium every month, at what point do I stop paying and it's paid up? And there are some I've seen on TV who actually tell you, after a certain number of years, stop paying, because you've paid enough. Others, to me, if you're still paying forever, that's greed on the part of the company, because they are making you pay forever for something which they've already collected enough money. Because remember, your premium which you put in is invested somewhere, so it's growing. So it's not like that money is sitting in a savings account waiting for you to claim.
But I think Wade might confuse people, and I think I'm getting confused here as well, Gerald. I don't come from such a huge family. Is maybe if you're insuring a number of dependents, like Ernest's case, he's got mother-in-laws, brother-in-laws, extended family. So maybe they're thinking that everybody's going to get 30,000 rand, so I need to pay for that 30,000 rand per individual. So therefore, I'm going to keep paying this 420 rand premium up until the 30,000 rand for each of these the insured.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
Insurance is about pooling risk. It's about the three of us saying, let's put 50 rand on the table every month in case one of us dies.
Okay.
So you're sharing the risk. So if one of us dies next month, we still have to pay for that person. So that's how it works. Whether it's a formal funeral product or whether it's a burial society, you're sharing risk. But in that sharing of risk, we need to understand how it works. Because sometimes you get a situation where a person has 4 debit orders on their account for funeral policies for different people. Whereas now, times have changed. Some products are covering the whole family plus extended family. So it's better for you to cancel all those 4
and just
get
one,
which is going to cover everyone. Because the other problem with having too many funeral policies is that if you take out a funeral policy on me and you take out a funeral policy on me, and I die, how many funerals am I going to get?
Just one, and you die once.
And I die once.
Yes.
So what the insurance companies do, if they find out you both took out a funeral policy on me, they're going to pay you half.
What?
But because the funeral...
But they never said anything when they were receiving the money, Gerald.
Alicia, if you...
They collected the full premiums from both of us.
It's part of the face ombudsman and the face or the financial advisor who gives advice should explain that. Because if I go and insure my car with 3 insurance companies and I have an accident, I'm not going to get 3 cars.
No.
I'm going to get 1 car. So it's the same principle with the funeral. You die once. Most people get away with it. But obviously with technology, things are changing. If they find out that this person has more than 1 insurance policy, they will just pay for 1 funeral and they'll share the cost, regardless of all your premiums which you've all been paying.
Yo, Mbukeli, I hope ukuthi nilalele lapho kuyashiwo ke lapho ukuthi kuthiwa noma ungaba nama funeral policy amangaki awu2 anjani ngelanga lakho lokushona uzothola uhalf kule noma usamba semali ethize, let's say unawo 5 mhlambe bonke bazofaka 100 rand ukuze wena ukhona ukuthi ungcwatshe, hayi ukuthi bonke bazokhipha 50,000 njengoba wena ubona ukuthi uthatha ipolicy uthi ukhokhela u50,000. Interesting. 011-714-0669, 011-714-0670, consumer@sabc.co.za. We're back shortly after this. Ningaindawo. Ombugeli, welcome back. We are talking funeral policies. Namhlanje, the pros and cons, the do's and don'ts, and Uguti, what are some of the things that you need to be aware of when thinking about going out and buying that funeral policy? And my studio guest today, Mr. Mashite Makgoo, is from the FI's Ombud's office, alongside Mr. Gerald Mwandiambira. He's our financial expert. Ungasishayela ucingo Ombugeli, usithinte on Facebook, usithinte ku Twitter, as well as on email. Back to the lines, Anonymous in Cape Town. Back to Cape Town. Thank you so much for joining us, Anonymous. How can we assist you today? Anonymous. All right, Anonymous has just dropped the line. We're going to get back to you. Mbugeli, now if you're watching, do call us 011-714-0669. Alternatively, 714-0670. Now, Mtata Mashite, you were saying khona limit. Maybe let's discuss this limit, because if I'm not understanding, I'm actually wondering how many more people are actually just as confused. Because if you're saying we're placing a limit on a funeral and said insurer or said funeral policy provider is going to decide they're going to pay half, even though I've been paying the full amounts on my premiums, why am I getting shortchanged? Why can't they then say, you pay 50-50, or ask me when I approach them and I tell them, listen, I'm already insured with insurer X and insurer XZ. Why can't they then tell me that, okay, upon the day or upon your claim, you actually not going to get the full amount? So aren't these some of the cases that you need to deal with? Or maybe put some policies in place that ensure that then these insurers don't take consumers for a ride, because I don't think it's the onus of the consumer. Consumers think they see 50,000 for a funeral policy. They want 50,000 during the funeral or before.
True. Ngempela, iqiniso. This is the reason why we have the FI's Ombud.
Yeah.
To deal with these kind of problems, the unfairness. So these types of complaints, we generally do get a lot of them. So that is why the FI's Act emphasizes the fact that there need to be disclosures. Broker magakhuluma nabantu bakhe, no matter where, ufanele disclose ama terms and conditions.
Okay.
Wale policy lay.
Okay.
Some of the insurers, they even put their own lower limits to say, ama policies way to, we don't cover any individual over and above, for example, 30,000 or 50,000. So the clients won't be aware unless umuntu othengisayo these policies discloses all these terms and conditions to the people. And also the general public, bafanele baqaphele, mawuthatha ipolicy, like any contract, it is an insurance contract, it is a legal contract. Qela amaphepha, ibana amaphepha ufunde ukuthi kahle kahle lento ihamba njani. Ubheke lento bakutshela yona ukuthi ikhona ngempela la emaphepheni wabo. So that ukwazi ukuthi if uyabona ukuthi lo muntu lo usitshela ukuthi lento lena ihamba kanjena njena, kodwa lana amaphepha siwasho enye into ke manje. And then kulapho ke kunama cooling off periods ama 30 days ukuthi ungayicancela uthole I premium yakho if bese bayithathile, because into bungayazi. So nokuthi ungaletha complaint kuthina ukuthi azange utshelwe ngento eziningi ezifana lezi. And then that's where FI's Ombud will come in and try to assist with your complaint.
You know, while we're there, Ntate Mashite, while we're talking, let's maybe just get the disadvantages out of the way. And Gerald, you'll jump in as well. I mean, also in relation to Ernest, he spoke about, you know, he cancelled and then they didn't even follow up on him to pay him the amounts that he's already been paying. So maybe, Gerald, what can you tell people about when they cancel their funeral policies? Are they then entitled to the amounts of money, even though they have never claimed, but they just decided, look, nobody's dying, nobody's died in the prescribed time, let me just cancel this funeral policy, maybe I'll get a return of my investment?
No, essentially, remember, if I die after 1 month and I paid 199 rand, they're still going to pay me my 50,000. Or pay my family that 50,000. So who is going to pay for the other 49,900 rand? Doesn't work like that. So when you cancel, you lose out on all the premiums you had paid up till that date. However,
Okay.
as a consumer, you can choose a product which sometimes they have things like cashbacks.
Oh, yes.
And bonuses, for, you know.
After a certain amount of
time.
no claim,
that
yeah.
helps you because it means that they are looking after you in terms of knowing you as the customer. But ignorance is not a defense in the eyes of the law. Because when you finish signing your funeral policy, they'll either ask you to send an OTP or to sign physically. The moment when you sign, you are acknowledging that you've also read the terms and conditions.
But we know generally people don't
People
read these
don't
contracts,
So
Gerald.
it's about now saying, as consumers, we know that there's 11 languages in South Africa. By law, you can ask for the terms and conditions in whatever
own
language
language.
you speak.
True.
By law, you can ask for them to explain the terms and conditions. If that financial advisor is in a rush for his commission, you tell him, no, Ndate, can you sit down and read that back page, every line, all 40
Including the fine print.
They must read it.
Especially the fine print.
But that's why they're getting commission. I'm getting commission for giving you advice. So you have the right to say, read the fine print and explain it. And by doing that, he's done his job. The problem is this guy is in a rush for your commission. Alicia, sign here, sign there.
All right.
And then he's gone.
All right.
And the only thing he told you was you're going to get 50,000. But then in the fine print, it says, you know, if you die on a Monday, you don't get 50,000, you get 20. If you die on a Tuesday, you know. So a financial product is not lotto.
Yeah.
But same thing, you can't do lotto with people's lives.
That's
because
true.
other people go to the hospital and find any relative they can think of and say, give me your ID number. And they go and to get a funeral policy to try and claim.
Hey,
because
Gerald.
that's the other side
Gerald,
of the coin.
let's leave it there for now because we even, you know, we're teetering on other territory. We're going to make examples that we shouldn't even be making. All right, let's go back to the callers. Ngicela usisi Ntombi Zodwa eMthunzini. Ntokazi, thank you so much for ukubamba ucingo sakwamukela ohlelweni. Sicela ubeke umbono noma ubuze umbuzo Ntokazi.
Okay,
Sisi Ntombi Zodwa, kunjani?
Ngiyaphila njani lapha e-studio?
Siyaphila sisi wami sakwamukela eMthunzini. Qhubeka sisi nombuzo noma umbono.
Okay, umbuzo wami umkanjena. Ngicela ukubuza ukuthi nginombuzo.
Yebo sis, go ahead.
Ngicela ukubuza ukuthi uma ngabe ekhaya mhlambe no5 nikhave mhlambe umkhulu wenu noma ubaba wenu.
Okay.
Ninenkampani ezahlukene. Ukuthi uma senza ama-claim nayithola inkinga noma nimkhave enkampanini ezehlukene.
Okay, so no5 ekhaya nonke nikhave umkhulu with ama-policy ahlukene. So ufuna ukwazi ukuthi uma umkhulu kuthiwa uyashona yibapha abazokhokha futhi bazokhokha kanjani Ntokazi?
Yes, and uma enkampani ezehlukene.
Okay, all right. Siyakuzwa sana Sam. Thank you so much. And this is what we're just discussing. Hey, Ntate Mashite akiri wamutla ari basically they bawu 5 ekhaya bonke bakhava umkhulu, all of them. So what happens, and it's different companies, it's different policies, different companies that are covering umkhulu. What happens on the day of umkhulu's unfortunate or untimely passing? What is going to happen in terms of payment is what she wants to know.
Ilento besikhuluma ngayo ukuthi abantu bafanele baqaphele there is no need ukuthi kube nama policies amaningi kangaka ayikho inid ngempela if nifuna ukuthi umkhulu angcwatshwe nge50,000 nithatha ipolicy A1 ye50,000 and then kuphelela lapho and then okay ngoba ama companies maningi ahlukene generally abantu mabafaka ama claims kanjalo generally they do pay but lana sikhuluma ngokuthi there is no need ukuthi abantu bathathe ama policies amaningi kangaka because umuntu ushona kayi1 uphila kayi1 akudingeki ukuthi kube nama policies amaningi kangaka because this is specifically for ama funeral expenses.
But Ntate Mashite also, I mean, you know how we are in black families. We want to outshine the other one. Ganjani, mina ngikhava umkhulu for 80,000, wena 10,000, and then maybe they think it comes up to that huge amount isamba semali that probably umkhulu is going to get because we know. I mean, there's extravagant funerals as well that probably people are thinking if we just contributing that 50,000 is not going to be enough for the limousines that we we want, and so forth. But don't answer now. You're going to answer after this break. Mbugeni, we're taking another quick ad break. Sabuya kona manjunga indawo. Funeral policies, do's and don'ts, pros and cons. Yilungelo Lakho. Ivuliwe 011-714-0669, alternatively 714-0670, consumer@sabc.co.za, noma usithole ku Facebook or on Twitter. My guest today, Mr. Mashite Makgoo from the FI's Ombud's office, Nobabu Gerald Mwandiambira, who's our financial expert. So, Baba Mashite, before you care, I wanted you to answer something. Please go ahead, because I was actually pushing this narrative, Uguti. We're talking about, Uguti, if there's access for so many people to insure one person, then you're also opening up chances or possibilities of fraud. Or fraudulent policies being taken out just so that people can benefit by the death of somebody in the family. Or even people that they don't know. We're talking of air that some people just go around insuring people that they don't even know.
Yes. Okay. The problem is this. Kaningi, an insurance into esilungu, okay? So it is governed legally, and then it has got legal terms.
Yeah.
And then besege tina ngesinye isikhathi sibona sifuna kuyiletha esintwini sithi umuntu noma kungasi cousin yakho uthi cousin yakho, because se understand ngesintu because nisebenzisa from the same clan. Yes. Yeah, isibongo esifanayo. So nibizana ngama cousins noma, but ngesilungu a cousin is very clear. It's either umntana ka auntie wakho or uncle wakho.
Yes.
So angeke nje ubize noma bani ukuthi a cousin makufika emaphepheni ku insurance. And then that's where the people are cashed out. So when they put in the claim, and then when some investigations, some insurers, they do this. Although generally if they do it randomly, abanye they do get away with it, but abanye they do catch them. Toluguti insurer, you're putting in a claim, and then basically in some investigations, bafonela family members, bafonela people who are closely related to Lomuntu Shonile. And then batolinda ukuthi ebo lomuntu samazi nje ngoba siphila naye la abanye ngabo makhelwane nje kodwa umbize ukuthi
I mean, we had a very famous case, if I can say famous, or very of a sensational case in South Africa where something like this, like funeral policy and life insurance fraud, was being perpetuated by an individual, a woman to be precise. So, Gerald, I mean, shouldn't this then make people even more bafuna ukuthi bazi ukuthi what they are taking out, particularly if they're insuring intermediate family as well as extended family? And also, isn't there then a system, we'll come back to you, Ntate Mashite, isn't there a system that can track if I'm already insured, or if I've already got a funeral policy, so that then nobody else can take another one for me?
Look,
Gerald?
Alicia, funeral policy is a good thing.
Yeah.
It pays for a dignified burial for everyone, okay? However, as with everything, people have abused it, okay? Now, in most instances, where you have 5 children taking out a policy on their father, all policies will pay because the company with the umbrella has got their own cupboard. The company with the anchor has got their own cupboard. The company with the castle has got their own cupboard. They don't see each other's cupboards to see, to know this is the same person we are paying for. Now, because of fraud, it's now working against us because the insurance companies have said, no, we've had enough. We're going to have a system, and it's coming, where you type in ID number and it will pull out all your insurance policies. It's going to be very difficult. So all I'm saying is, as our viewers are watching, be prepared. That day is coming soon when all 5 of you claim, and they're going to say, yes, we understand, Ubaba, we are Shonile, but we're going to pay equal amount for one funeral. So they already do it with cars. So it's a matter of time before it happens with people. Because the same way you can go and get an ID at the bank now, it's going to be soon a process where if you want a funeral policy on the person, they also call the person and say, Alicia, do you know this person who's taking out a policy on you? Let's get things right, because financial solutions and financial products have a purpose.
Yeah.
If all of you want to get money from the death of your father, Go, all of you get a life policy on your father, and then become payers of that policy whilst he is the insured, okay? That's allowed, and that's transparent, and that's how it works.
All right.
However, don't all go get funeral policies, because a funeral policy is to pay for a funeral.
Okay.
So it's part of sitting down with that person, understanding what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with all of you benefiting, but there's a problem when you're all benefiting in a way which is wrong.
Absolutely.
And that's what's happening with funerals right now.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Kanye in Pretoria, Ntokazi sakwamukela ohlelweni, awusibuze nje umbuzo sizokuphendula emva kwaleli khefu. Uthi qaba nje kancane.
Okay, hi, Sister Alicia.
Kunjani sis?
Ngiyaphila njani?
Ngiyaphila.
Kanye in Pretoria. I have just two quick questions, Nick.
Yebo sis.
The first one, let's say I take a funeral cover for a relative, and then what happens, I decide that this money is not enough. Because when that person dies, everything is a so I feel like it's not enough.
Okay.
And then I take a second one, but in the same company.
Okay.
So I want to find out, will there be a problem when I'm claiming it's two different policies but same company? They have two different policy numbers but same company for the same person.
Oh, so
That's the
Kanye,
first-
so Kanye, lenye inama additions le owafakile because ubonile uba it's not going to be enough ngale eyokuqala oyithathile, but it's still within the same company.
Within the same company.
Okay, all right, Siskhanyi, siyabonga sisiwami, siye ekhefini, uhlale nje kanjalo kumabonakude wakhe SABC 1. Bukele, we're back shortly after this. This is our final ad break. We're back shortly after this. It's our final segment. Sengizovala ingcingo, so sizophinda lapha kumbuzo kaSiskhanyi ePretoria. Who wants to start? Baba Mashite, what can you advise a winner from your side, according to izinto zaziyo nge-insurance? Was it wise for her ukuthi within, or in fact, when siphendulele ukuthi why couldn't the same company pick up or even recommend a better service or product for this woman who now feels ukuthi the product that she took initially is not going to be enough for utatake?
The problem starts with the advice, the broker.
Okay.
The broker should have known that the only thing that is needed to be done here is just to increase the value of the cover that is existing already.
And add some products.
But they don't do this because bafuna imali, commission. Bayazi ukuthi bazothola i-commission for a new deal. Inkingi leyo.
Gerald.
And definitely, when it's not enough, which is sometimes the case, what you can do is there's lots of other companies who don't necessarily give you a cash payout. There's Ama Society who give you the meat, they give you the veggies, they give you
the airtime,
the kitchen, the airtime, the groceries. Those are not counted as part of the actual day. So that's how companies have found a way to give people more. Because the Act is very clear on the cash payout. Cash payout has a limit. You will not be able to get more than 100,000 on a funeral in South Africa. But companies can offer you airtime, they can offer you groceries, etc. Those are what they call ancillary benefits, and they're not part of the actual core product. So if you feel that the policy you have is not enough, rather go for more ancillary benefits, or better still, just go to the company which does burial and take a policy there, because they specialize in burial. So then it means that when you get the cash, it doesn't need to go to burial because e-box and everything is sorted out.
So as you always say, Gerald, they must shop around for the product that is going to best suit their pocket and them as well.
So the 5 children should sit down and say, policy, Baba, this one pays 50. I'm going to pay for this. Okay, what else do we need? No, I think we're going to need the e-tombstone. Does this cover the tombstone? No, okay, no. I know a burial society, or I know a company which does tombstones. Let me go take a policy there. You know, and then you actually build your funeral, and it can be grand and very dignified. But Bazalwane, or not Bazalwane, but viewers, the day is coming soon where the companies can type in your ID number and you won't get away with having 5 policies. You will all get the shock of your life when you realize you've been paying all this extra premium for nothing, because that's how the product is designed. It's designed to pay for one single event, and that one single insured event is a funeral.
Very interesting, Gerald. You know, if we had more time, I was going to make reference to how everything actually changed during the COVID era, where we saw like insurers were literally saying, some of them were saying, we don't have money, we don't have this, or even changed the rules altogether. But Ndata Mashite, maybe let's wrap up on your side. How do we, let's talk about maybe the dangers then associated with obviously unregistered providers, and of course, what is the best recourse for anybody who feels they've been shortchanged either by the advisor, just like Gerald was saying, and how do they even know where these people are registered? Where do they report them to besides the police station or your offices?
Okay. Sikhulume in the beginning ngendaba ukuthi these financial services providers often babe registered with the FSCA, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. That's the starting point. It's very easy.
Siyakubuza lokho over the counter or we Google it.
Uyabuza ngempela uyabuza lemibuzo enjalo, uyabuza ngokuthi license yabo ithini, i-FSP number, bakunikeze yonke lento, wonke lamaphepha. So, and then uya futhi ku FSCA on the website, you can check, type in that FSP number that bakunikeze yona, and then from there we are born ukuthi okay, they are licensed, a license yabo ithi, they can give advice, intermediary services in this product, a list of products. Then sharp you can deal with them.
And then if you're not happy still with lo muntu okunikeze advice from their offices, what do you do in that instance? And then they're saying we're not taking responsibility because you signed on the dotted line, because Gerald was saying you can't claim ignorance when it comes to law.
You come to the Ombud. Obviously, we will have to look at a complaint yako and sibone ngempela ukuthi kahle kahle
inkinga iqale ku
so mhlambe sithole indlela yokuthi sixazulule iproblem yakho, i-complaint yakho in a fair way, because that's what the Ombud is there for.
All right, good news, Gerald. We've talked about the advantages of having a funeral policy, and I mean, let's talk about the products maybe that are available. We know banks are now offering them, individuals. Look, and so forth. There's quite a wide range.
A lot of people can offer funeral policy. Even cell phone providers, you can get a funeral policy with a SIM card.
Yes,
so it's very easy to get, and it's very important because it gives you that dignified send-off. But be very careful that you don't over-insure by having too many policies on one person. If you want more money and you're saying, look, I want a large payout when this person goes, for whatever reason, it's your choice. Rather speak to your financial advisor about taking out a life policy, which is not the same as a funeral policy. But generally speaking, the main advantage of a funeral policy is that you have peace of mind that the day the Lord calls you, you will go in a dignified manner, and that's how it's supposed to be.
All right, Ndata Mashite, maybe this we didn't even deliberate on it a lot. You know, a lot of people, I'm sure you've received complaints when it comes to abantu bethi kunama exclusions or kune disputes arising from the waiting period, the turnaround time, and things like about suicide and so forth not being covered. Ama complaints anjalo ndila nayo kanjani baba?
Okay. Ama complaints anjalo ngempela siyawathola maningi. Okay, so it depends ukuthi kahle kahle with each complaint ukuthi kwenzekeni. I-waiting period, the
marketer will say 24 hours siyakhokhela, and then laba they won't pay.
They won't pay. Obviously, we have to look at it in ukuthi into efair ihamba njani la, because ngempela waiting period, it's a standard thing. Okay, it's a standard thing, and generally it's a 6-month standard. The PPR rules say it cannot be more than 6 months. So although other insurers they come and say 3 months, but it cannot be more than 6 months. So we have to look at it what is fair. Umuntu nanku bamtshela ukuthi within 2 months or whatever, this 24 hours uzothola imali. Umuntu wakhe ushonile ubhadala i-premium A1. But is it really fair ukuthi i-insurer ibhadale i-claim based on that one premium, based on the fact ukuthi bamtshele amanga? It is not fair, because if you look at it, that person would even if bebamtshele iqiniso, there was no way that the person was going to find cover that will pay within 24 months.
No, but then they
Because it
mustn't
doesn't
put that.
exist.
No, but then they mustn't put that on their marketing drive that they reimburse you or they pay out policies if you comply to all the right regulations and so forth within 24 hours.
Paying
Gerald.
out doesn't have a paying out is a company decision.
Okay.
Waiting period is to say for you to be able to join the three of us, because remember we started putting 50 rand.
Yes.
Okay, and then Temba joins us in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
But till now we've paid 6 months already.
Oh.
So when can Temba now claim, because we are already in it? It's the same thing. The insurance company is already going strong.
Okay.
So they give you a time to join. So
Okay.
you must catch up a bit. You know, you've caught up a little bit, then you can enjoy the benefits. So you can't come tomorrow and start claiming, saying, I want the full benefit, I'm here.
Yeah.
So it's the same principle of how insurance works. It's just pooling of risk. Be careful mainly around the community, burial societies, etc., because they too need to be registered. And although it's people you know in the community, don't always be so trusting, because that's where a lot of the complaints come in. Because, you know, I know Alicia, she's from our neighborhood. She sold this to me. However, we need to be very careful that they are properly registered and that they can offer the service. But let's support each other and our local communities, because the nice thing about a burial society versus a funeral scheme from
It's
the
like a Stokvel,
is that a Stokvel, they're going to come, do the veggies, they're going to cook, and they're going to pretend to cry. Most of them.
And bring the cow.
No, you see, they cry, you know.
They pretend
Whereas
to
if you
cry.
go to the company with the anchor or the castle, no one is going to come cry with you. They just send the EFT. So sometimes it's good to have people pretending to cry, because at least it makes you look important
The
when
chief
you go.
mourners. Thank you, Gerald. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. My guest today, Ntate Mashite Makgoo. Thank you so much, Baba, from the Pfizer Ombud's office, as well as Ubabu Gerald Mwandiambira, our financial expert. Mbukeli siyabonga nani ngokuthi nisifonele namhlanje and being part of our show. Yeah, we know there's quite a lot that we always actually deliberate on the topic. It just seems like there's always new things ezivela ngathi nathi asikhona ukuthi sifike ekugcineni kwale ndaba. But ke we're going to keep informing you. Senza konke esikhona ukuthi sikwenze ukuthi senze sure ukuthi you guys are safe and are well taken care of. Umajali unisanda nonke emakhaya nisale kahle. Yilungelo Lakho,